I'd like to define the term teacher as I use it this morning. Are we all in agreement that every adult who works in the school system, every adult who's sitting here right now, whose life could potentially intersect with a young person's life, could be a teacher to that young person? So that's everyone, isn't it? Our custodial staff, our secretarial staff, our hall monitors, our paraprofessionals, our administrators, our classroom teachers. So when I'm using the word teacher today, I'm talking about all of you who've committed your lives to being a part of that village that's raising a child. So many years ago, I'm 12 years old, and I'm sitting with my father and a Mr. Walter Thompson, both of whom worked at IBM. And we're sitting at what's called Four Corners in Vestal, New York, where I grew up, at Little Leon's ice cream store. And at 12, I was already a type A behavior pattern. I was lamenting the fact that I had no idea what I wanted to do for a career, because I knew in the blink of an eye that decision would be upon me. Turns out that that was true. Mr. Thompson turns to me and says, John, there's people in their 50s who don't know what they want to do with their lives. And I remember thinking, well, that's not helping me. And then he uttered a sentence that changed the course of my life. He says, John, I go to a job every day at IBM that I can't stand, so I can make enough money to do what I want to do in this life. Now, I don't know what my vocabulary skills were at 12, but I remember mustering something to this effect. You know what, Mr. Thompson, if that's worked for you, I'm really happy for you. But I went home and chewed on that for quite a while, and I thought to myself, my God, 9 to 5 is a huge chunk of your life to go to something every day you feel disdain for. So you can get 2 weeks vacation off during the year. You can spend those 2 weeks on vacation thinking how much you can't stand going back to your job. When Mr. Thompson passed away, I had the honor of giving his eulogy. And when I eulogized him, I mentioned that in a single sentence he uttered to me when I was 12 years old, he changed the course of my life. And I wrote about this in my book. On that note, I share with you now the story of the fisherman. And when I would read something like this to my students, I would tell them, I'm not interested in a right answer. I don't know that there is a right answer. I'm interested in what you heard, given your life experience that's brought you to this point. I'll ask you the same. The fisherman. The American investment banker was at the pier of a small coastal Mexican village when a small boat with just one fisherman docked. Inside the small boat were several large yellowfin tuna. The American complimented the fisherman on the quality of his fish and asked him how long it took to catch them. The fisherman replied, only a little while. The American then asked why he didn't stay out longer and catch more fish. The fisherman said he had enough to support his family's immediate needs. The American then asked, well, what do you do with the rest of your time? The Mexican fisherman said, oh, I sleep late, I fish a little, I play with my children, I take siesta with my wife Maria, I stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life. The American scoffed, listen, I'm a Harvard MBA, I can help you here. You should spend more time fishing, and with the proceeds buy a bigger boat. And with the proceeds of the bigger boat, you would buy several boats. Eventually, you'd have a fleet of fishing boats. Instead of selling to a middleman, you could sell directly to the processor, eventually opening your own cannery. You would control the product, the processing, and the distribution. You'd need to leave the small coastal fishing village and move to Mexico City, then LA, and eventually New York City, where you'll run your expanding enterprise. The Mexican fisherman asked, but how long is all this going to take? To which the American replied, about 15 to 20 years. But what then? The American laughed and said, this is the best part. When the time is right, you would announce an IPO and sell your company stock to the public and become very rich. You would make millions. Millions? Then what? The American said, well, then you'd retire, move to a small coastal fishing village where you could sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take siesta with your wife, stroll to the village in the evenings where you could sip wine and play guitar with your amigos.